A few weeks back, I made a video where I talked about games I want to see come to Nintendo's next generation console, and in that video, I said, I am so close to buying a Steam Deck just to play Rivals 2, and I really would prefer not to have to do that. So yeah, I bought a Steam Deck. Now I feel the need to give some context, because if you know me, you should know just how excited for a game I'd have to be to make this move in particular. If you just want my thoughts on Rivals 2 specifically, timestamps are in the description. Click like and subscribe on your way down there. But if you want to truly understand the full extent of how I feel about this game and why, strap in. This will be a long one. Thank you to Ridge for sponsoring a portion of today's video, and paid redirect members over on shop.watchredirect.com for supporting the channel. Okay, so to set the stage, I am to my very core a console gamer. This isn't just some arbitrary bias I formed by happenstance because I bought in young and remained loyal to a given brand in the way I think most people fall into their chosen ecosystems. In fact, the formation of my particular sensibilities are the polar opposite of that experience. I've mentioned this a lot across my streams and videos, but for my literal entire life, there has always been every major console present and accounted for in my household, much like is still the case for me to this day. Something I don't think I've talked about at all though, let alone enough, is for the first half of my life, PC was a big part of this equation. In fact, the first platform that truly felt like it was mine, and not just a shared console for the family outside of my Game Boy Color, was a gateway PC I got on my 5th or 6th birthday, and my dad is a massive PC nerd, so you better believe I played my fair share before that point as well. I experienced PC gaming on 3 different desktop PCs that span from Windows 98, albeit briefly, all the way to Windows 7. This for me was from kindergarten all the way until my freshman year of high school, where I was given a 2009 white MacBook and never looked back since. The Apple approach to hardware and software just gels so much better with the way I engage with games and honestly technology as a whole, and by extension console games is where I'm provided with that experience. Even more specifically than that, Nintendo's ecosystem in particular is where I experience the least friction possible. Admittedly, part of that is a self-fulfilling prophecy. My Switch and all of its games stay the most up to date because there's rarely a day where I don't at least turn it on once. But to dispel that a little, every other platform that I own presents me with some sort of annoyance that makes me dread turning them on the next time. That is foreshadowing. If I haven't already made it abundantly clear, despite my general love of trying new things, I am still very much so a creature of habit. I've had this wallet for over 10 years. It's not a great wallet, it's peeling and falling apart, but the way I see it, if it hasn't fallen apart, why change to another wallet that'll just eventually follow suit anyway? Enter Ridge. Ridge sent me their Alpine Navy wallet about 2 weeks ago, and it's been my daily carry ever since. It's way more durable, a lot more cleaner, and a lot easier to, well, carry around. And I can now confidently say if that sounds appealing to you, it will be a worthy upgrade. To grab your own or any other product that might catch your eye from Ridge, click or tap the link on the screen or in the description and enter coupon code YouTube10 at checkout to save 10% and help support Redirect in the process. Thank you again to Ridge. Back to the video. My Steam Deck got here the weekend leading into the Rivals 2 demo week, and I am not exaggerating even a little bit when I say I have never experienced nearly as many frustrations with any other gaming platform I have ever owned in my life, with PS5 being a close second, with the first game I played on that, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, causing me to clip through the level multiple times in the opening minutes of the game. I digress. Point is, I had to factory reset this thing like 4 times before Rivals 2 was even playable. First of all, going to desktop mode is a nightmare on this thing, as it completely all but disregards the fact that this thing is a handheld gaming device. Before owning one, I was given the impression that Steam Deck would be user-friendly, and nothing has dispelled that assertion better than desktop mode. The most apparent issue for me that has to this day remained unsolved, as someone who is visually impaired, text is unreadable in desktop mode, and the options to rectify this issue are abysmal. That, alongside the fact that I need to spend another $100 or so at minimum to do so efficiently. I don't currently have a keyboard and mouse setup to use with this thing, and I'm told having one makes it a little bit less of a nightmare to navigate the menus. I think that it's terrible that it's a requirement to make your life not suck when using this device though. And it's not like I can just ignore this mode. Literally any non-Steam game requires it. I have Prime gaming games I want to play. Can't do that without jumping through hoops in desktop mode. I have PC Game Pass and xCloud games I want to play. Same song, different dance. PlayStation Remote Play, Humble Bundle. Really, most things people tried to sell me on this thing since launch requires going into desktop mode to use and troubleshooting. None of those things is worth the headache for me. And that's not where the problems end either. For the sake of brevity, I'll save you the details, but in the week or so of playing this, I've had several visual bugs. The Steam Deck has crashed on me more than a handful of times. Its storage management for everything that can't be sent to the Steam app is archaic. I've experienced it hard freezing my Switch Pro controller. It works less consistently with my Steam Deck dock than my Nintendo Switch, and the list goes on and will undoubtedly continue to grow. I am way more savvy than PC gamers typically assume of people with my stance. Despite the amount of PC gamers I have access to in my bubble, none of them solve problems I had with this thing. With the exception of one issue, I fixed them all. And to be clear, the problem that I got actionable help from was courtesy of Trev. Everyone else, be it close friend or well-meaning viewer on the internet, ultimately hit me with the shocked Pikachu face when met with a problem I was having with the platform they previously assured me was console levels of plug and play. That doesn't help the PC gamer optics. And to be crystal clear, I don't hate troubleshooting PC issues because I don't know how to. I hate troubleshooting PC issues because I am a consumer, not a computer engineer or an IT professional. I shouldn't have to. I also hate never truly knowing if a game I want to play will work. On consoles, games may not run the best, but there's a near perfect success rate in terms of the game working as advertised, and everyone on those platforms will all have the same experience. I never have to worry about someone I'm playing with or against having a better frame rate than me. For the record, that's not to say PC gaming isn't for anyone. Some people don't mind or even enjoy the troubleshooting. Even more people are already in the ecosystem for other aspects of their life, so gaming on the device you need makes higher investments more justified. And others love the sheer variety offered by PC gaming, assuming you have the specs for that variety and or the sensibilities for those of you that pretend a legitimate strength of PC is piracy, but that's a different video entirely. None of these things apply to me. I bought this thing to play games, not to spend hours troubleshooting ways to do so. I am a Mac user. I have no need for Windows in my day-to-day life, and I am a console gamer that just wants to play games in as straightforward a way as possible. And I am never in need for new games to play or even new games to want. Nintendo alone typically fills my gaming bandwidth. I rarely have the time or desire to play every major release on PlayStation or Xbox. I definitely don't have the time or desire to ogle at PC games. But it's fine. Like the title says, I bought a Steam Deck to play Rivals 2, which I hope I made clear speaks highly to how excited I was to play this game. But was it worth it? Let's get into that and see if it improves Steam Deck's standing with me at all. I am a massive platform fighter fan. I started with a lifelong love of Smash, of course. That eventually grew into a love for the competitive scene, and that gave me an appreciation for the genre it created. That said, it's usually hard for non-Smash platform fighters to stick around beyond a month or two for me for various reasons. The first Rivals of Aether, for me, was a game that didn't even reach that mark. Not to say I think it's bad, I literally never played it. For one, like I mentioned, I wasn't always a fan of the competitive platform fighting scene. That love was a small spark that began in the Wii U era. Ultimate is the game that turned that spark into the massive flame that exists now. Up until then, I played Smash regularly, but it was a a lot more casual for me with past games. I only really played with friends and family. I didn't even really mess around with online matchmaking in Smash back then. All of that is to say, Rivals 1 was not on my radar at all, as the value I see in platform fighters didn't exist for me yet when it first launched. And even once I did gain that level of appreciation, Ultimate was still new and fresh and actively growing, and so was I to the competitive scene. I was not really interested in juggling a bunch of different platform fighters when I felt like I still had so much to learn in my preferred fighter. And at the end of the day, Ultimate has Pokemon Trainer, my GOAT. So when given the choice with low bandwidth for the genre, Rivals 1 fell through the cracks. It doesn't help that the game omitted aspects of not just platform fighters like ledges and shields, but fighting games as a whole like grabs, and superficially, I'm not a graphics guy, but the art direction is important to me and I do not like the way Rivals 1 looks. All of that brings us to Rivals 2 though. Apart from the problems that solve themselves with time, like Ultimate is still fun to me and I play it often, but it's not exactly fresh anymore. And related to that, I'm also definitely not new to the competitive platform fighter scene anymore. I've played all of the prominent contenders that have arose in the last 5 years or so, and I'm no top player, but I'd contend that I'm at least decent enough at all of them. So I'm definitely open to adding another platform fighter to the rotation. Beyond that, Rivals 2 thoroughly addressed every problem I had with the original. The art direction is light years better. The first game, in my opinion, looks like a Flash game. I'm aware there's some advantages to that, like Steam Workshop support, but for me, the cons outweigh the pros. And another glow up, the most important aspect of a fighting game, the character designs. I think several characters in this game look sick on an aesthetic level, and their movesets look fun. There are multiple characters I could see myself playing, but I have found a favorite in Fleet, and that's all I need to get invested in a fighting game. Which brings us to the Steam Next Fest. But first, if you haven't already, become a member on the Redirect site. It's worth, I promise. You get cool merch like this, early uploads, exclusive behind the scene looks, and I really want to do some Mario Party Jamboree game nights. The best perks start at the $8 tier, and there's discounts and promotions you can find and redeem if you're in the RD Twitch streams a lot. I contend the perks are pretty good and will only improve with more support. I think current members would agree, and if you enjoy these videos and want to see them more frequently, it helps me pay my new editor without worrying too much about algorithm nonsense. So again, if any of that sounds compelling to you, go to shop.watchredirect.com and become a member today. Okay, so Next Fest, or at least the lead up to Next Fest, because believe it or not, my Steam Deck problems did not stop once I started playing a game in Steam. Getting Rivals 2 to work in the first place was a whole saga unto itself. Not turning on. Wasn't feeding audio through HDMI, it was just playing audio through the Steam Deck itself. The light is flashing. What does this mean? Steam Deck crashed OBS 3 times. I just want to play the game, man. When I tell you, every time I turn on my Steam Deck, some sort of annoyance of varying sizes pops up. I occasionally have this visual bug when I play my Steam Deck. I've had it shut off mid Rivals 2 ranked match. I've had it glitch out my HDMI switcher when switching back to my Switch. I don't know a better way to phrase that, but it is what happened. And the game itself feels like a nightmare to optimize. The game doesn't hold 60 frames per second in 1080p, and even lower resolutions and lower graphical settings struggle when Forsburn smoke is on the screen. And look, if I haven't made it obvious, I'm not a performance snob, but something I do care about is hitting a stable frame rate. Unlike graphical fidelity, frame rate very directly impacts gameplay. A 20 frame drop in a game like this could be the difference of dodging entire combos or not. Smash Ultimate, for example, hits a solid 60 frames per second at 1080p on 7-year-old hardware. Steam Deck not being able to at least match that is disappointing to say the least, and no shade intended, but it's not like Rivals 2 is especially good looking. I'd argue on a technical level, Smash Ultimate looks a decent amount better than Rivals 2. I get optimization is a thing and it'll hopefully be something that's improved in the future, but on one hand, this level level of logic is never afforded to Nintendo's platform when a game isn't optimized in a way that is representative of what the platform is actually capable of. People judge its technical ability on games like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, or its ability to facilitate online multiplayer on games like Mario Maker 2, and discard the rest. And on the other hand, it's yet another aspect of PC gaming that's incompatible with how I play games. I want to play new games the day they come out, and I want them to work. It feels like PC gaming made this concept seem foreign to gamers, and to be fair, console is veering in this direction with the advent of day one patches and hot fixes, but is really up front and center on this platform. But in my experience, 9 times out of 10, I don't have to worry about whether a game will run or not on console, and I certainly don't need to spend hours trying to optimize the game's settings myself. Ignoring all of that setup nonsense though, how is Rivals of Aether II? To sum up my thoughts in a word, fantastic. In a sentence, I absolutely love this game. Of course, I have a few caveats, like I wish Fleet, my main, was more in line with the clear top tiers in terms of power level, and I wish the game was better at communicating certain things like level progression and future rewards that will unlock at higher levels, but I'm sure most, if not all of that, will be addressed in future patches. And even if it isn't, on the whole, I have mostly great things to say about this game. As a lifelong Smash fan, it's to me clear that the people behind Rivals are massive Smash fans themselves. Not only mechanically, and more obviously the Smash formula itself that has since evolved into a genre unto itself, but through the characters themselves. The inspiration on some characters is pretty blatant. Like, they have Fox, they have Marth, they have Sheik. Some characters, it's subtle. There's Pit, there's DDD, there's Steve. Then you have characters that I couldn't name a parallel if I tried. However, make no mistake, I think this game is a masterclass on how to not just steal from a thing people like to make a quick buck in a world where unimaginative ripoffs like Power World exist. Every character in Rivals 2 feels inspired, even in the instances where their inspiration is pretty direct. Zetterburn is Wolf, but his attacks apply a burn effect that boosts his strong smash attacks and throws. Rano is essentially Sheik with poison attacks that enhance the effectiveness of his poison bubble. They actually have 2 Sheiks if I really think about it, but I try not to because I hate Maple. A lot of Rivals fans downplay these similarities. I think they're coping, but realistically shouldn't even try, not only because it's a reach, but also because inspiration isn't a bad thing. Outright copying is. Which brings me to characters with no clear ties to Smash, like Orcane, a weird hybrid rushdown zoner mix who can set puddles around the stage for C4 like traps, stronger grabs, or a recovery mix-up. There's Forsburn, a sortie with a smoke mechanic that allows the player to move in and out of visibility to perform sneak attacks on their opponent in tandem with a smoke clone that helps up the tricky nature of the character. Then there's my personal favorite, again, Fleet, another zoner that uses a combination of her bow and arrow, wind attacks, and a Peach float-like mechanic called slow fall to control space until you find windows to seal the deal. Something that seems like a common trend in this game is that a lot of seasoned Smash players tend to veer away from archetypes they play in Smash when learning Rivals 2, and I am on that train as well, because while Fleet has some similarities with Min Min as a zoner, or even in a broader sense with PT as a character with strong edge guards, those similarities are pretty vague. In fact, I can't say I've ever heavily played a character like Fleet in a Smash game, unless you count me picking Brawl Pit and spamming this to tilt my friends in middle school. And I chose to do this for a few reasons. 1, I just think Fleet looks cool. 2, I'm really big on set play. Like, for example, Sephiroth's orbs in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate force players to deal with relatively passive pressure while you can physically aggress on them. That's a playstyle that I have a lot of fun with, and I haven't had it be present in a character I've mained, so this is a good opportunity to change that. And finally, 3, it's an entirely new game with a pace shift that's pretty different from Ultimate anyway, so I'd rather not risk messing up my muscle memory by doing similar things in a different engine with different mechanics and rules. And at the risk of alienating more casual viewers with minutia and competitive platform fighter terms, I'll just say the experience of learning a new game while still having a baseline understanding that's good enough to not feel completely lost at any given time is really big for improvement. I know the improvements I need to make and the steps I need to take to make them, and I've had a ton ton of fun taking those steps this past week. So to answer the question of did Rivals 2 make buying Steam Deck worth it? For me, absolutely. I can easily see myself putting hundreds if not thousands of hours into Rivals 2, especially if it's successful enough for Aether Studios to maintain post-launch support for years to come. The business model is definitely consumer friendly, with the game only costing $30. All future characters, stages, and modes will be free, and even the parts of the game that do cost real money are unlockable just by playing. Just over the past week, I've earned enough currency to redeem 2 skins as fleet, and that's before any events that promise to make earning currency even easier to do. That's certainly not to say the game is perfect. As a casual consumer, the game is relatively bare bones, admittedly by design, but that doesn't change it from being a con for the masses. And even as a competitive fan, I have my fair share of gripes, namely how mashy the game can be. I've had many a match that just evolved into people holding down to get an overpowered crouch cancel into immediate reversal as a reward for losing neutral and getting hit. Pretty bad mechanic in my opinion. And there's other nuts and bolts competitive stuff that can be chalked up to these dubs loved playing Melee in college, but on the whole, I think the experience nets out to being better than the rest of that ilk of platform fighter. And I do hope to see them tune down some of the mechanics that promote no thinky, just crouch cancel and swing, or the polar opposite of dash dance outside of burst range, so I look like I'm interacting, but in reality I'm camping you until you press a button that's laggier than my buttons, because at the end of the day, in a game with 10 characters, why only reward such a narrow set of playstyles? But I digress. Game is great, game is far from perfect, but game is ultimately worth it. That said, as far as the Steam Deck goes, so far, I do truly think the hype for it is overstated. I certainly wouldn't recommend doing what I did unless you too are outside of the PC gaming ecosystem, don't want to commit to spending like $1,200 for a decent setup, and are a massive fan of a big enough game that isn't available on console to make the time spent amount to the cost of entry of a Steam Deck. It's been positioned to me as a must-have platform, but in my experience, that's only really true if you're already in the ecosystem. Steam Deck shines best when it's your secondary PC, not as your straightforward alternative, because contrary to popular belief, it isn't actually straightforward, albeit a little bit more so than straight up PCs, and it's a subpar alternative altogether since it's not powerful enough to play most new major releases day one. But if you're a platform fighting fan and you think any of the Rivals 2 characters look cool or fun to play, I can definitely recommend this game at least. Expect a ton of streams from me over on Twitch for that game, and maybe even some videos if the interest is there for it. Thank you to Redirect's first ever executive producer, Trev Steinberg, and all of these other great names you see scrolling on the screen for keeping this channel afloat. Remember to go check out shop.watchredirect.com to join them in the credits and in receiving whatever other perks interest you. Most importantly, if you haven't already and you watched this far, you must like platform fighters, or maybe you're curious about a Nintendo fan's perspective on Steam Deck and PC gaming. Subscribe and click the notification bell so you can see all of the videos I do on all of the above and more. Okay, that's it for me. See you in the next video.